Hi everyone, my name is Kristen Neal. I am the Greenhouse Annual Supervisor here at Colonial Gardens. So I am in charge of bringing in all of the annuals, displaying them in our greenhouse, and then being here for you when you need to come in and get them. So we're coming up on spring. This means we need to start thinking about what you're going to be putting in your garden. And Colonial Gardens has got you covered. We are fully stocked with different seeds that you will need. And we also have the materials that you will need to be planting your seeds in. So here we have several different types of containers you can put seeds in. Really what you need is a container that is flat and that has drainage holes in the bottom. But you can use any different types of containers. So this is just a big flat tray. We've got individual peat pellet containers. And then little containers that you can put in a tray that have drainage will work just fine as well. So to start with your seed preparation, the first thing you're gonna want to do is come into Colonial and chat with any one of our employees here to talk about kind of the items you're gonna need. We can help you find everything, including the seeds and the soil. The soil that I would recommend are gonna be the seed and cutting fertilizer mix that we carry right here in the store. And what I did was I put some of this into a bucket and I moistened it so that it's pre-moistened before I put my seeds in it. And so I'm just going to take some of this and throw it in my tray. I'm gonna only do half a tray today, and I'm not gonna fill it all the way up. You don't need to fill it all the way, you just need to have about 1 inch to 1.5 inches of the soil on there. That way you give it just enough room to get roots, but not so deep that you've got roots going so far down and everywhere. It makes it really hard to kind of separate the plants after that. So in a blog attached to this video, we're gonna have a list of all of the seeds that you can start indoors at this time period. They've got times attached to them so you know exactly when you should be starting them. And on the back of every seed packet, it also tells you when you can sow inside versus when you can sow outside. So today I'm gonna sow some lettuce and some broccoli inside. So we're gonna sow them in these trays, cover it, and then leave them in the greenhouse for about 4 to 6 weeks before we then transplant them outdoors. For other crops like beets and carrots, you wanna sow these directly outside in a couple of weeks before the frost date. And the frost date for Blue Springs, Missouri is April 16th. On every seed packet, it gives you the instructions you need. It's hard to say kind of, every seed is this kind of depth in the soil. But on the back of every seed packet, it tells you kind of what the seeds need. So how deep they go or whether they're sown on top of the soil. Lettuce, for instance, gets sown on top of the soil because it needs light to germinate. So to sow these, I'm just gonna make kind of an outline of where I'm gonna put them. You don't have to stick them in holes in the soil. And also because these seeds are so small, you don't have to separate them out. You're just gonna go through and kind of put them down in lines. And what you can do later when they germinate is thin them out. So you don't have to be as precise right now, and then you'll come back later and thin them. So broccoli goes about 1/8 of an inch deep into the soil. These are slightly bigger seeds, so I have a little bit more control with poking holes and dropping them in. So once you have all of your seeds for the broccoli planted, because they go 1/8 of an inch deep into the soil, you can then come in and cover them with a little bit more of your soil mix. And don't pat them down, but just lightly cover them up. So be sure to read your seed packets before you start planting. That way you know whether these can go directly on top of the soil or whether they need to be planted down into the soil. So if you didn't pre-moisten your soil, it's at this time that you're gonna wanna lightly but thoroughly moisten your soil with either a watering can or a hose, and be very gentle as these seeds can come out of the pockets that you've put them in. And the last thing you wanna do before covering it is you wanna label what you've planted. So I planted lettuce right here and broccoli right here. That way when they come up in about 2 or 3 weeks, you know what is what and where you've planted it. The final thing you want to do, and these come in the kits that we sell, is cover your seed tray with this little cover. This is going to help to keep humidity in around your seeds. It's going to keep you from watering quite as much. You won't need to water because it'll hold that humidity into the soil. Once your seeds germinate, you can then take this cover off and put this tray in about as much direct sunlight as you can. So this is a great intro to seed starting. If you have more questions, please come into Colonial. All of the staff here are more than happy to talk to you about getting your garden started, what you're going to need, what plants you might be interested in planting. Again, we have a bunch of seeds that we just got in. We are very excited to get you started planting in your spring. And we have everything you need right here to get your spring started.